That's why I set the trend.
Yeah,
And I just don't play. Now I come again with love to smoke the cannabis.
We still listen to Yuck Mouth. Yuck Mouth, I know you had some reggae on your stuff, man.
Keep flowing through, no matter what they do.
Okay.
They just can't stop me. Well, like the fire on the side of my yo, ignite the dynamite. Look into my eyes again.
Hey,
I set the trend for the youth. Them don't try to diss the cannabis. Boom, rolling down the boulevard.
Hey, Yuck Mouth.
Blazing trees. Hey,
yo, just take a picture real quick.
The good weed. Blazing trees. Blazing trees. I'm rolling down the boulevard. Smoking trees so hard, 1,000,000 miles away. Ganja is my first choice. That's why I use my voice, no matter what they say. I'm rolling down the boulevard, smoking weed so hard. I love my herbal medicine. That's why I set the trend. And I just don't play. Now I come again with not more lyrics. I have to tell the people stop the gimmicks. Blaze the fire higher, put the bomb higher. The light keeps moving all around. What's lost is found. I wear the triple crown. Boom! Catch me rolling down the boulevard, looking like a superstar. Bitch, you know who we are. Now open cigars. I got a fetish for that green like lettuce and that red bone.
Well, you know how God works in mysterious ways. You know how we do it at 1698 on the one. The station started actually with a prayer, and we just been manifesting. Sometimes I have a problem with the English language. Manifesting ever since then. So I got my lady to the left. You know, she's done a lot of stuff in the community for our young people that look like me. So and she have gotten a lot of people in college. So this is her first show, and my man, not Spice One, but he was just in here, Yuck Mouth. You know, actually, you know, touched her because that was her favorite, her son's favorite song also. So God working in a mysterious way. So don't be crying in here, Donna, having all us in here and crying and stuff.
It brought me back memories of my basketball.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but Donna does hoop it up, and she's very special in my heart because she really does the same thing that I really do, you know, for the whole community. So it's just not about color; it's about our people. So, and that's how we do. We are the example. This is how God wanted it to be. I'm proud of my man Yuck Mouth. So you guys come and see him tonight. I got goosebumps in here. We about to put 5 on it, like he said. But Donna has a co-host, and this is his actually first time on the air. So I'm setting them up, setting the stage. So here's the mics, and I'm finna get out of here. So y'all have a good show. You got an hour. Appreciate you, and I'm out of here.
Have a great show.
Good luck tonight, guys.
All right, how you doing, Donna?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm good. My name's Austin, and I'm going to be here co-hosting with Donna and I. We're going to kind of go through her story and see where it takes us, and bringing awareness to topics that are kind of taboo and not often talked about in the public or in the media. So, such as, you know, life. The name of our show is, why don't you tell them, Donna?
The name of our show is going to be called Surviving Life's Tribulations. And that's just kind of hitting on different things that have touched people, you know, different scenarios of, you know, we'll have a different theme. The first couple of weeks we're going to be talking about suicide, which is dear to my heart. And we're going to be bringing awareness to things that maybe will help some people. That's our goal, is to touch somebody and maybe help them get through a situation that they or maybe somebody else has survived a situation. So, okay, that's okay. Okay, Austin?
Okay, sorry, we just got briefly interrupted, but it's... so, let's start with what happened. What happened? Your son committed suicide about 2 years ago now,
It's almost,
right?
it'll be 2 years, it'll be this Thanksgiving. My son Steve was 31. And he committed suicide. It was a shock. We had no idea there was anything wrong at all. One day we just got a call that he was missing, and
he was missing for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was missing for 2 days. But I knew in my heart, and I physically got sick to my stomach at work, exactly when he did it, when he committed suicide. And we always had that kind of internal, gut-wrenching thing, him and I did. And I literally went to my knees and just got sick. And everybody's like, he's missing. I said, no, he's gone.
So you knew instantly?
I knew instantly that the minute he did it. And that ended up being exactly what time he did do it.
from the medical reports?
For the medical report and autopsy.
So what went through your mind? I know that a lot of people, surviving suicide is a very difficult thing for a lot of people, and it affects not only the immediate family members, but friends and just anyone who might have known the person. Hits everyone home a little differently. Tell us about your experience with that.
Shock. Both my sons. I've been a single mom for many, many years, over 30 years, and I did everything with my kids. I took them everywhere I went. That's just what I did. Especially Steve. I was his basketball coach, and he was my right-hand man to hoop it up. And whatever I did when I coached, he coached with me. So we worked at the same company and everything. So we liked NASCAR, and just shocked that he did this. The missing part was not finding him for 2 days was the part that was probably the hardest part of the whole thing.
Right, just not knowing for certain what had happened.
And with his brother, he was in North Carolina and just playing phone tag, and him not knowing. That was really hard for him that he couldn't be here with me. And the whole thing, his friends and everything, we were all together just like, we were out looking. I was, got a hold of the basketball players, and it was all over Facebook. If you see the truck. I knew he was gone. I just wanted to find the truck.
Right.
And the police department in Lincoln were phenomenal. Within 15 minutes after a call, they had helicopters up looking over 3 counties. And you just don't see that. And why they decide to put a helicopter up and look for my son, you just don't see it.
Well, everyone, you want to assume that, everything's okay, that maybe you'll find him and everything will be the way it was. So, they want to do all they can to find him, I'm sure.
Yeah, and they promised me they'd find him. And finally, the Tuesday morning, they put it on the news. Picture of him up there on the news, and they described the truck. And the farmer had remembered seeing the truck the day before, the Monday, but he just assumed it was like a hunter.
Oh, right.
So he didn't think anything of it until he saw it on the news, and he went back out there and saw the truck there again, and he called the sheriff right away, and they went out there, and they found him.
So then they gave you a phone call, and what happened?
No, I didn't sleep for 2 days. I was not going to go to bed until...
So you were awake the whole time?
Yeah, I was awake the whole time, and I was not going to go to sleep until somebody came knocking at the door saying they found him. And they did, 11 o'clock that night. They knocked on the door and said they found the body.
And did they tell you cause of death at the time, or when did you know that it was a suicide, that it was that he had taken his own life?
Well, we knew it because when I went up to his father's house, he said his gun was missing, and we found a note. He left a 5-page letter
in which he outlined specific people, right?
Yeah, he outlined certain things, to the grandparents and to everybody, little messages to everybody.
So it was planned out.
It was planned out for 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, because we found a video, Will, when we went through his apartment. He had made back in 2009, and he committed suicide 1 day away from the day he made the suicide video. Back in 2009, he committed suicide in 2011.
So were there any signs or anything that could have pointed to his suicide potentially before, leading up to, or was he hiding something, or because they say a lot of majority of suicide victims suffer from depression. Was your son depressed? He
put on a good show, in front of people. He did not act like anything was wrong. He lived in, I kind of thought things were, because he'd been out drinking. Sometimes he'd call in sick at work. Saying he had a headache or stomach ache, then I was kind of thinking, well, he's been out drinking. He didn't want to go to work. So later on, after it all happened, the people are saying, yeah, he was at the bar. People come up to you later when it's over. Instead of saying, oh, he's at the bar every night drinking, then that would have raised red flags with me that something was wrong.
Right.
But people just,
So then so you had the shock, and you had that you kind of knew what had already happened already, and then you got the confirmation. What happened next? I imagine a huge sense of loss and an extreme amount of sadness, if not possibly leading into an own depression, if that would have happened. But how did you cope with that? What has gotten you through these hard times?
Well, the letter that he left me. You know, he explained to me, you know, he said, Mom, you know, had nothing to do with you. I had to fight my own demons. It was all something he had to do for himself, you know, too. And people are like, well, aren't you mad? No. You know, why would I be mad at him? He's not here. You know, you feel like everybody's like, well, you should be mad at him. Why?
Well, some people, I imagine, are mad at him, and that's understandable. That's you know, a step of grief, you know, his anger, and that you want to blame him because, you know, he did do it. But it seems like you weren't okay with it, but that you've come to terms with it.
I come to terms with it because I'm not afraid to bring up the idea that suicide, you know, we need to talk about it.
Right.
We need to let people know what, you know, you don't know when somebody's planning it. You know, a lot of times people just do it, you know, right away. But I know why he did it the time of year he did it, because his favorite holiday was Thanksgiving. So him doing it after Thanksgiving, I could see that. And the main thing was the Tuesday before he was a pallbearer at my aunt's funeral, at the same funeral home that all my family had their funerals at. And he's like, Mom, I don't want a funeral. Let's have, you know, throw a party for me. So basically, he told me the Tuesday before exactly how to plan his service. So he was asking me, like, Mom, if something happened to you, how would we know what to do? So as he was asking me, he was telling me what to do for him.
So that was as kind of a hint. They do say that, you know, they do kind of call out before help in subtle ways and try to make it, you know, someone else figure it out, I guess. But he consulted you on his funeral plans?
He told me but he was asking me, he wasn't, so then he was kind of telling me.
So did he take what you wanted maybe done to you for himself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know, because we always used to say, you know, they always used to say, well, we'll have to rent out the Quest Center, Mom, when you pass because you know so many people. So he said, you know, I don't like sandwiches, blah, blah, you know, and he was telling me that, you know, got to have barbecues, you know. So and then in the letter he also left specific instructions on what he wanted, and in the video what he wanted for food, you know, and exactly how he wanted things.
I remember reading another article about a suicide where I can't remember his name right now, but he had made a website outlining everything about his life, and it seems that a lot of people nowadays who are committing suicide are leaving more specific instructions for something they want to do, which, you know, if you could possibly see them working on beforehand and maybe talk to them and get them the help they need. It says that I read a couple of facts today that said about 90,000 persons die in the United States annually as from suicide. And I also heard another statistic said that every 30 seconds someone in the world kills themselves, takes their own life, which means it's a problem. You know, this is something that is happening to not just, you know, isolated areas. It's around the world, and we need to talk about it and find out why, and what to do afterwards. What happens when someone you know or someone you've loved has committed suicide? How do you cope with that? Because there's a lot of emotions that come in, and it isn't easy, I'm sure. I've known a few people who have committed suicide, not super well, but just through extended friends, and it is sad. And I know a lot of my friends still have trouble dealing with the emotions that came from losing their friend, you know, either in high school or college, whatever it may be.
Well, you know, certain things, like certain songs on the radio, will trigger, like, you know, a certain song that came out the time that Steve was missing was a song by Blake Shelton. And every time I heard that, I'd literally start crying for like the first probably a year.
Well, no, was this a healthy cry or like a reminiscent cry?
It was a sad cry because the song came out exactly during the time. The first time I heard it was when he was missing and we had not found him. And the song is God Only Had You. So every time I heard it, it's just like Steve was speaking to me in the song, through the song. The words were speaking to me. Because if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have had my son, either one of my sons. And the hardest part was my son was in North Carolina, and I had to tell him that they found his brother in a field. And that was very emotional. And he was emotional because he wanted to be here with me.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
And
the distance didn't help.
Right. And, you know, and people are afraid when people commit suicide people are scared of you or they walk away from you. I sat in my townhouse for 2 days by myself. Not one person came over, not one, a lot of phone calls, but nobody came over, and I don't know why,
Well, probably because, a lot of people probably don't know what to say,
And I
which is
understand
also
that.
a reason we are doing the show, is to talk about how to help your friends who who may be going through something like this or something similar. Life can give you a curveball in a second. You learn that not everything goes as planned, and if it's not suicide, it could be, something else. It could be an eating disorder. It could be someone got ran over, or someone got in an accident, or anything just can change your life drastically, and you don't even know or plan for it. So it is important to think about, how might you react in a situation like that, and what you might do. So definitely talk to someone if this has happened. Reach out to them, not just through the phone, but in person. And so you're saying that it would help to have someone physically there with you during the immediate hours after you had learned.
Right. Well, the immediate, I think just the hardest part was the 2 days he was missing. I mean, just, you go through different emotions. Like the police were saying, well, yeah, we found him, in his truck. So then I had this scenario of him in his truck, the thoughts he would have in his head before he killed himself. And then they were saying they found him in a field. So then they kept coming up with different things, so I kept having these different scenarios. And every time I would close my eyes to go to sleep, I kept having these different scenarios in my head. And that's when the emotions would come out, like, Mom, it's not your fault. What was he saying? What was he thinking? So that was probably the hardest part, was just, what was he going through the time before he did it?
To try to understand. And did the letter bring a lot of answers for you, or was that just more of instructions on what to do after?
It brought a lot of answers, and so did the video, Will, because he wanted to make sure that I knew that it wasn't my fault. Mom, you don't feel bad.
He knew what the pain that it would inflict upon him and you and your family, but he did it anyway.
Yes, he knew exactly what it would do to me, because we were very close and we talked about everything. But it just shows you don't know people. You don't know what might be the one thing that might set them over. So my philosophy now is be kind to everybody, because you might say the wrong thing at the wrong time. You don't know what people are going through, because people, and even Steve put up a good front. And they say once they're at peace, once they know they're going to commit suicide, they're going to be in the best mood afterwards, knowing that they've decided to do this because they're at peace with it. And I can give examples that Steve did that. We were going to a wedding, and he took him like 2.5, 3 hours to get ready, and we were calling him a diva because he had to have his hair a certain way. But he wanted everybody to remember him looking that good. The last time he wanted everybody that they were going to see him, he said he wanted to look like a stud.
So, and he had this all planned out, right? As you said, it was just after Thanksgiving, which I believe you mentioning it was his favorite holiday. So he had held out all year just for Thanksgiving. So he had known for a while he was going to do this. So that says that people might be planning it and just not acting on it. Maybe they're waiting for someone to talk about it or to say the right thing. And so that just to always be aware of everyone around you, because you never know what anyone could be going through, even if they have a fake face on, a big smile. Inside, they could be struggling with depression, which isn't talked about very often because, it's got a bad stigma. People think poorly about, you're depressed. Oh, grow up. You're going to be okay. Tough it out. When reality, you're having a chemical imbalance, in your brain, and it's when someone breaks their arm, and they're in a cast, it's completely acceptable. You have your friends sign it, but you make a deal about it. Oh, I want a pink one. Oh, I want a green one. But when you're suffering from a depression or like a deep sadness, it's very looked down upon. That you're not as excited to share your injury, but it is still there's something wrong with your body that can be fixed.
And the thing is, that's what Steve and I did for a job. We work with mentally challenged people, so we know all about the chemical imbalances, and we know how to deal with our own clients that way.
But sometimes self-reflecting is harder.
But it's harder for yourself.
Yeah.
And people are like, you're always in a good mood now. I go, well, when you went through a situation like I've went through, You know, a loss of a child is the worst loss ever. You know, you can lose your parents, and it's not like they just grew old and they just died of old age. This is something, and this is what our show is going to be about every week, is talking about like SIDS, where a child just might pass away. I mean, spontaneous things that is going to affect your life for the rest of your life. The surviving.
That you don't normally plan for, that you know, just come out of nowhere, kind of like out of left field, as they say.
In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be bringing in people talk about veterans, people come back from the war that are committing suicide, teens, youth. I read an article today online that an 8-year-old girl hung herself. Her father found her hanging from her room. 8 years old, and she committed suicide.
So that's definitely a problem that needs addressed, especially in the military. I was former military, and they were always, you know, they'd try, you know, they do these seminars to teach you the signs, but still today, suicides in the military are at all-time high. They're the highest they've ever been, and they just keep going up every year after year. People come home with PTSD. You know, they just don't know what to do. They're not getting the right help they need. There are a lot of services out there, but a lot of them don't know, or a lot of them are too scared to ask for help, because just like, you know, depression, it's looked down upon. You know, when there's something wrong with your brain, people don't tend to be forgiving about it, and I don't really know why, because it is just another sickness, another ailment that is happening to the human body that can be addressed and can be fixed and coped with. But I think that's the first step, is to remove the negative stigma of something wrong with you in order for people to get help easier, instead of hide behind the, you know, behind the mask that they wear every day, and it comes as such a surprise to everyone when someone takes their own life.
And another thing we're going to hit upon, which is really dear to my heart, is the youth. I mean, there's so much bullying going around that you don't hear. I went to a walk yesterday, suicide awareness through Out of Darkness walk, and there were people there that are saying that they're teenagers. You could read on the back of the T-shirts. These kids are like 14, 15 years old. And I ran into a young gentleman, which we're going to bring in, where his friend from Benson committed suicide as he, you know, middle of his senior year. And we didn't hear about that, because you don't hear about that, people committing suicide. There was a time where they wouldn't even let you put it in the obituaries in the newspaper.
Really?
Yes, because they committed suicide. So now they do, but I remember when I was younger, we knew somebody did it, but the newspaper would not
talk about it.
And
well,
the newspaper would not
upon.
let you put the obituary in the paper.
It's definitely frowned upon. It's one of the worst things that can happen to the people who are left behind. Like, I would imagine it's one of the worst deaths to deal with. Like, worse than like a car accident, worse than you know, possibly a murder where someone's taken from you, because it's someone you know and you loved and that you spent numerous times, have had conversations with, took their own life. And it just kind of hits at your core a little bit harder and a little bit more confusing, like a sense of bewilderment when it happens, that it's just shocking.
Well, there's times where I was thinking, you know, would have been better if he got killed in a car crash. You know, maybe it'd been better if, you know, like you said, murder. Because then, but dealing with the thought that he did it to himself, yeah, that still hurts.
Because it is frowned upon, and like I mean, a lot of religions aren't very accepting of it either. And which, you know, when you don't want to tell, you know, a survivor, you know, something negative that's happened, and they're already dealing with a lot, and then you just put that pressure on, like, oh, by the way, I think this because of what I believe in. So that's something that a survivor definitely does not need to hear. They need comfort and loving and caring, and something that makes them feel better, so that they don't themselves become a victim of depression and perhaps maybe even take their own life.
And it's what I noticed yesterday during this walk. There was 2 names on some shirts. So there are a lot of and I was talking to different people yesterday, and they were saying that, like, a parent couldn't handle their son, so she committed suicide herself.
The parent?
The parent committed suicide a couple years after her son did.
Let's back up a little bit and set this up. Yesterday, Donna participated in a 5K walk, I believe.
5K walk, and I didn't know I could walk that far, but I did it.
Yeah. Are your knees sore?
No, I'm feeling good. So I think my son was looking down upon me and taking me there. So.
There you go. And it was for suicide awareness, or what was the organization?
It was called Out of the Darkness.
Out of the Darkness.
Right, and we're going to bring some people in from that group. And they talk about survivors, and they have support groups, and, you know, set up, and there are different support groups. I went to, I think, probably the biggest meltdown I had during this whole situation was I got a tattoo on my son's birthday. And
After or before?
after.
After.
Yeah, he always used to tease me that I'm never going to get a tattoo. So I went the day of his birthday, and we put his ashes in the Platte River by Lenoma Beach, and that's what he wanted us to do. So I got a tattoo of the Lenoma Beach, and it's like it's floating up into heaven, and I got his name and the basketball on there. So as I was flying to Louisville, the first time I took a plane trip, I had a meltdown on the plane. I had a panic attack, absolute panic attack,
10,000
because
feet.
I was in heaven. You know, you look out there and all of a sudden hit me. I'm in heaven. My son is in heaven. And so, yeah, and then I was like, I told my other son, I'm never, ever going to fly again. I'm not going to fly.
You're gonna drive
I
everywhere?
can't do it. I can't do it. So I did go to a therapist because I had to get over this because I do fly a lot.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I realized, that I had this edge, and my doctor kept saying, now if you need a little bit of something to get that edge off, don't be afraid to ask. So I myself got help.
So therapy is a good idea.
Except for the
just to talk
therapist
to
told me I
someone.
didn't need therapy.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, kind of get them out of their
Right, I
own
must
money.
want to, anyway, but no, because I got over the fear of flying, and I flew again. But I did go to my doctor, and I did get something,
How long did it take you before you were able to fly again? So you went and you flew and you had your little panic attack and you landed. Did you fly back?
Yes,
or
I did, but I didn't want to.
Didn't want to, and
No.
then you said I'm not doing it again, and then went and sought therapy. And for how long did you not fly?
I flew again the next trip I had to take, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. Because I would hear Steve saying, come on, Mom, don't be a pud. Get over this. I mean, he used to tell me this when I was like, I'm not doing this. Get over it. You know, so I have to face my fears. And people, you
Right.
have to face your fears yourself to get yourself through life. And like I said, since my son has passed, day by day, every day I get up is a good day.
Well, some would say it's remarkable. Like, I mean, even you're almost 2 years. It's still about a year and a half-ish, I think, right? November
Right.
is a couple months away.
Right.
So some people would commend you for even being able to talk about it in this fashion. You know, like some people have a really hard time, you know, accepting what's happened and moving on or taking something of it. But it seems like you're taking a lot of good out of this. You know, you're trying to mold it into something where you can help the community. And you just did the suicide walk. How many people were there?
I would say a good 1,000 or more.
And most of them affected by someone who had committed suicide.
Right.
So
There was teams of people, like groups of like 15, 20.
in our own city, we have thousands of people showing up being affected by suicide. So it is a problem, and it is something that we need to address, and something we need to figure out and learn more about how to communicate with someone who might be committing suicide, and what are the proper steps to do that.
Now, what I did was I did go talk to the boys' club. I've been talking to youth groups, and they're all like, Miss Donna, your Steve did that? They're shocked that my son did that.
Right, it can be anybody.
But it can be anybody. And since I have a way I could always, everybody knows me being Miss Donna from basketball, so I can go into youth groups and like, oh, Miss Donna's here from basketball, and then I get into the story of Steve, but they're like, wow. So they listen. And I remember when I went to the boys' club, this young gentleman came up to me and he said, I was thinking about doing that till I met you.
So there you go. You've already
So-
affected at least one person's
And
life.
I'm
going
going
to
to say it's not.
Matters.
This
That's
is
what
what
it's
Steve.
about.
This is what Steve wanted me to do. Steve wanted me to take his life, experience that he did, and make a difference so other people don't do it. This is one of the things he did ask me to do. So, and I've given scholarships away. He wanted me to start a scholarship fund, and I did that. And so, everything I do, I guess, is a memory of Steve, and I think even his brother, my youngest son, he's amazing. I'm gonna say it. My youngest son, he's amazing, and Steve never thought he was smart. Nobody ever told him he was smart, but Steve was brilliant to
That's
plan
another
this.
thing that
Right.
we need to address. Like we belittle people so much in our like day-to-day routines. We know that being mean to someone is wrong. We know that, and we criticize other people for doing it, like on Facebook or in person with their friends. But then when you get into your selective group of people, you still do it, and you never know how that person could be affected by that, and that it could stem from way back when you just never got over it. You said some little thing that was mean, and people are bullying and just being rude to people and not just having a common decency. And like yesterday, William said something on the air that was fantastic, I thought. He said, people who treat you good treat them better. And I hadn't heard that before, but I believe it, and that's something that I would maybe even think about taking up as like a personal motto for my life, that I try to treat people, everyone good, but I should treat them better than how I even want to be treated.
Yeah, and some of the things that I ran across, like when I go to the grocery store, I try to like take in somebody's, grocery cart, and they look at me like, what? But be kind to people. I mean, I remember one older lady, she says, that's the nicest thing for me to do, for somebody to do, because I have a hard time with the cart. But just knowing that you open a door for somebody, just be kind to people. There's no harm in it. What do you?
That person could be on the edge of their seat,
right,
thinking about killing themselves or taking their own life that night, or they may be at the store buying the supplies to do it, and you just said, "Hi, how are you doing?" Maybe talking to somebody who looks maybe sad, maybe not though, because they don't always show sadness. I believe you said that more often than not, they're the happiest they've been right before they do it.
Right. They say, and I was going through some articles, and they were saying that once they've made their mind up and they know they're going to do it, they're at peace. So they're in the best mood. And Steve was in the best mood. He went and visited people and called people he had not seen or heard for like 10, 15 years. And when we had a service, people come up, man, I hadn't heard from Steve for 10 years, but, he called me. And he would visit his grandparents the night before he did it. So he was in the best mood before he did it.
So it seems like you've taken, there's this quote we have in front of us, and it says, ironically, we had no choice when our child died. It was out of our control, but we do have a choice in healing ourselves. It sounds like you've taken control of your healing process, and that you have, that you've researched into it, and then you've tried to make something good of it. Is that kind of just pushing it to the side, or have you dealt with it and coped with it, and then that's why you're doing this now? I'm
never going to cope with it. Nobody could ever say they can cope with it. There's certain things I don't do. I mean, I can't watch a NASCAR race because that's what we did. I can't eat. There's certain things that Steve and I did. Certain things I just can't do.
And do you think that's something that you'll never be able to do, or do you work to maybe trying to do some of those things that you used to do together?
I've done a lot of things that I didn't think I could, and I brought myself to, like I said, he's in the back of my head going, come on, Mom, there's certain things I'm just not ready to yet.
Would that be a bit of advice then to people who have friends who might be dealing with this sort of loss, that to approach them and try to stay away from subjects or things that would bring up memories or strike,
Well, no, like tonight, when that gentleman was here, he was getting ready to do his concert tonight.
Yuckmouth?
Yuckmouth was here, and he was talking about the song I Got 5 on it. And I was telling Austin, oh my God, that was our theme song for our basketball team. And the guys used to sing it all the time. And Steve loved that song. So right there, I didn't break out in tears because that brought back good memories. So I do a lot of things that bring back good memories. And I watch this video, Will, just to see him telling me, Mom, it's okay. I'm not afraid to go over things. No, I'm not afraid.
So you think though that the letter and the video were helpful, because not everybody leaves a letter, and some parents are left with just no child anymore. That they are left with nothing but the fact that of pieces to try to put together that they don't know, like what happened at school, like who was he talking to, like what could have made him do this. For kids who haven't left a letter, or even adults who haven't left a letter, what would be your advice to them if they don't know why they're...
You might not ever know why. I still don't know. I mean, he left in the letter about a secret. I still don't know what the secret is. I can't bring him back. I can't change it. So I'm trying to just go on with my life because that's what he wanted me to do. And I'm just trying to take the situation that happened with him doing this, bringing awareness to it every way I can. I'm not afraid to talk about Steve. I don't break into tears. I loved my son more than anything in the world. So I'm taking his memory that I have of him, and I'm trying to make good of it. Because that's what Steve wanted me to do. He's always like, and one of the jokes was, you have more pictures of things on the walls than you do of Matt and I. And, you don't need pictures and everything and to have memories. Like a song will bring a memory, and I'll just start laughing out of nowhere, and just thinking like, wow, I remember he loved oldies. So I always go to the oldie station. I'm thinking, oh yeah, Steve loved Phil Collins. The song came on this morning, and I start smiling. I don't start crying, because it brings back good memories of Steve. And certain things like eating. He loved my homemade pizza, so I make it once in a while just because it brings back good memories. And that's how I get through it every day. I'm not going to swallow myself up into a hole and that's not what he wanted me to do, and I'm not going to do it.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you, because I know you personally, I'm happy that you're striving through it and you're trying to do something good with the unfortunate events that have happened to you. I think that we might take a quick music break.
Yep.
And we'll be back very shortly. Stay listened to 1690 AM, The One.
Shit. Fuck Smith this loud, I don't know what y'all fucking with. I'm thugging with Big E4 and do or die, that's below. From Chi-Town to the east though, I quarterback Tim Tebow. Keith's Road, ludicrous. Sweets Road, super thick. Free yo ho with a Buddha bitch. Fuck them both at the Super 6. Hop out the coupe, no roof and shit. Polo down on my juice is sick. Too short nigga, they choose a bitch. Broke jackhammers, crucifix. Master Kush, I'm bout that. Taking that, then I bounce back. Yo niggas smoking that Outback. My niggas smoking that loud pack jack. I'm rolling plat, smoking Kush to the dome. Fall up in the club, smelling like that Kush my cologne, nigga.
Loud and loud, and I'm about to roll some up, and I'ma smoke this L to the down, yeah. And you better believe once that motherfucker gone, then I'ma roll another till it's gone. Yeah, them hoes be like, ooh,
Show. Fuck
you
the
smell
pro
so
shop.
good.
Stay so beautiful, bitch. Fuck the pro shop. Yeah, Eastside G out there. Yeah, nigga, another blunt rolled up. On that kush, cologne. Only that kush get blown. In the seats of the lag ball, back on the yak dog. Yeah, that's a rock shit to them rats, dog. Get a quarter pounder for a rack dog. At 18, I hit you with a half dog. And you can break it down and go and flood the town and come back around and do the math, dog. Be with it. Getting extras like the 1050. These petty niggas live fishing. I'm a sexy bitch, keep pimping. I forgot to mention that I'm about to pop 4 bras on the yacht. Probably about to cop more cars on the lot. R&B bitch with a jaws on the cop. When I die, niggas say I did it all for the block, did it all for the G. West Coast where I grow my tree. LA where I lay my head. 2 hoes on the yay laying in my bed. She gon' put it in a name for the nigga named Fred. Good brain and the bitch break bread. Red eyes with high Versace, bitch you copy. Take one straight to the head, bitch. We win.
Loud and loud, and I'm about to roll some up, and I'ma smoke this L to the down, yeah. And you better believe once that motherfucker gone, then I'ma roll another till it's gone. Yeah, them hoes be like, ooh, you smell so good, so good. Yeah, they love that Kush cologne, that Kush cologne. They love that Kush cologne, that Kush cologne.
Keep it lit, and I'm with the shit. So quit the joking, only kissing, purple smoking when you come around in Oakland and it's money making Moses. Cutting down trees like any day Christmas, gifts is on me. And all these pretty bitches love to smoke weed. And every other picture blunts is on me. Cause I'm high as a motherfucker and still burn it down. Like the roof on fire, never put it out. You can call me your supply, ship it now. Can't get no high, nigga in the cloud. Burn it down, burn it down. See you niggas smoking apes and we blowing pounds. All these bitches like your nigga when we in your town. Cause we got that Cali Kush and we burn it down. Burn it down, burn it down. All you see is pretty clouds when I come around. Tryna pass me that brown, like a flame on. Yuck mouth the Human Torch, nigga Johnny Stone. I be hide and be real, you mighty cone. Cypress Hill Kush got my eyes like Connie Chong. I be on that cat piss, sipping on the activist. Shit, I'm twisting up, could win the cup from the cannabis. Smoking on church, OG, no evangelist. That ain't real Kush, it come from Los Angeles. Scandalous, I'm on the Alpine bubble. I only fuck with shit you see in high time covers. Superfly hustler, True Religion, James on the endo. With my extendo, 2 chains on. I flame on with Snoop, I got the best high. I touch down with that Cali Kush from the west side. Smoking trees with currency, I be jet high. I hit your town to burn it down like left flame on, nigga. Burn it down, burn it down. So you niggas smoking apes and we blowing pounds. All these bitches like your nigga when we in your town. Cause we got that Cali Kush and we burn it down. Burn it down, burn it down. All you see is pretty clouds when I come around. Tryna pass me that brown, I turn it down. With my niggas from the town and we burn it down.
I'm off the body in the party going by Molly. Bars like a holly twisting up that lottie-dottie. Move your body, baby, shake it for a real nigga. Bust it open, bust it down and feel it like a swisher. Gotta take it naked pictures for the Instagram. Pre-roll joints in case I need to hit the land. I'm boxing in my empty pair minivan. In front of Banana House, grams in them hammers out. Bands when the camera's out, sell a bitch a blue dream. Standing on the club couch, fogging up the club scene. Yeah, I'm from the town where we burn it down. Ask some niggas out of bounds, how they got them pounds. All you see is strange clouds when we come around. Swear the weed so loud, gotta turn it down. Turned up, shirts up, getting twerked up. OG and burped up, these get burnt flame on.
Burn it down, burn it down. So you niggas smoking apes and we blowing pounds. All these bitches like your nigga when we in your town. Cause we got that Cali Kush and we burn it down. Burn it down, burn it down. All you see is pretty clouds when I come around. Tryna pass me that brown, I turn it down. With my niggas from the town and we burn it down.
All right, we're back. We're gonna play a little clip of this video by Kevin Breel. We're gonna be talking next week a lot about depression, and this will kind of segue into it. I'm just gonna play about 10-15 seconds of it. You should look it up online. It's Confessions of a Depressed Comic. It's really good. It'll tell you a lot how to deal with someone who's suffering for depression, and that it is actually happening in our world today. So let's get this queued up.
While we're waiting for that to get queued up, next week we're going to be hitting on teen suicide and depression. And if anybody would be want to come on the show and be a guest on our show, you can call me at 402-578-3159, or my email address is cwebbfan04@cox.net. We could always use guests on our show. Got that? Ready to go, Austin?
Yeah, I think it was playing maybe while you were talking, actually. I don't think it's coming into our speakers. Oh, yeah, okay, it's right.
We say we're sad and we say we're sorry, but we also say, so what? Well, 2 years ago was my problem. Because I sat on the edge of my bed, where I'd sat a million times before, and I was suicidal. I was suicidal. And if you were to look at my life on the surface, you wouldn't see a kid who was suicidal. You'd see a kid who was the captain of his basketball team, the drama and theater student of the year, the English student of the year, someone who was consistently on the honor roll and consistently at every party. So you would say I wasn't depressed, you would say I wasn't suicidal, but you'd be wrong. You'd be wrong. So I sat there that night beside a bottle of pills with a pen and paper in my hand, and I thought about taking my own life, and I came this close to doing it. I came this close to doing it.
So he just goes on to talk more about depression and how it's affecting him and how he lives with it day to day, and that how people are hiding behind a fake life that they're living, that they live two lives, he mentions in it. He lives the life everyone else sees and then the life that he lives. And it's a very good watch. I definitely recommend it. We'll probably play more of it next week when we talk more about depression and what you can do to help someone you know with depression. And a good step would be to send them to this video. If you look in the comments section and you look on his website, they talk about some people had watched it and stopped themselves from killing themselves that day. Like they were going to do it, and then they watched this video and it changed their mind. So I definitely recommend watching it if you are thinking about possibly harming yourself, or if you know someone who might be, or if you just want to learn more about it and open your eyes to what's happening behind the scenes in our culture today with many, many, many people, from kids to young adults to even elderly. It is a problem, and we need to fix it.
There's a book, and there's a gentleman who wrote a book called After Suicide, and his name is John Hewitt, Hewitt, and I've been reading some excerpts from his book, and it's pretty phenomenal, the thoughts that came out of it. And it even changed my thoughts on the things that I was thinking about my own son's suicide. I would have never thought the reason he was in a good mood is because he'd made his mind up. You would never think that. You would just think that everything was completely fine with that person. So I gained a lot of insight reading about, Kevin Brill. He's the gentleman who, if you go to YouTube, he's got the video that Austin was talking about. And just go online, Google, suicide. There's support groups out there. There's counselors that are specific for that, for adults, for youth, for teens. And you have to talk to somebody to get your mind changed. This cannot happen again. I do not ever want any parent to feel what I have felt the last 2 years, because I have to live with it every day that my son is not here anymore. I don't have my best friend to watch NASCAR with. I don't, we used to cook together, cook a feast. I don't have that anymore. I would not want anybody ever go through what I've gone through, what his brother goes through every day, and what his friends go through every day. They still put things on his Facebook page just because to put, to talk. And I tell everybody, go, if you want to do it, do it, if it makes you feel better. And people still feel guilty that they didn't help him. Steve didn't want to be helped. Steve took his own life. That's the way he helped himself. He was going to do it. My mind totally believes, and in my heart, nothing was going to change his mind. So I guess that's why I can go through it every day. Because if it wouldn't have been that Thanksgiving, it was going to be another Thanksgiving. Because when something's that well thought out and that well planned, I mean, he used to be obsessed with CSI. He knew exactly how to kill himself. So there's a lot of thought into what he did. So,
but it could just be, the simple thing, or not necessarily a simple thing, but we could have maybe prolonged his life with different things, or maybe gotten him the help he could have needed. But you don't
can't
think
help
that
those who don't want to help themselves. I mean,
True.
that's my opinion. And if he wanted help, all he had to do was ask. I mean, he was, he supposed to have been the perfect son, and he led two lives,
Exactly, and that's another thing that this video talks about is two lives. One that you are perceived as, and one that you actually live with, that nobody knows but you. And perhaps maybe if someone could have connected with Steve's, other part of life, his second life, how he viewed himself, perhaps things could have been different. But you can't change the past. We can only change the future and try to help people who could be suffering right now.
The one thing I want to bring up, and this is one of the things that Steve felt his whole life, was when he was home here in Omaha and he's with us, he led one life. This is what I mean by Steve led two lives. And then when he crossed that Lenoma, that Platte River, which put him towards Lincoln, he had to be that life. He had to dress perfect, act so, just such a certain way. So that's what I mean by he had to lead two lives. He led the life here with us, and then when he went to Lincoln, he had to lead the life that his father wanted him to lead. So he had to be like the perfect son.
Well,
and he didn't feel like he could live up to expectations. So people, this is one of the reasons why children have a hard time with divorced parents. You pull them both ways. Steve thought he was getting pulled both ways. So, and
then
he
you
grew up.
then you just got Steve, who's looking at both ways, which is kind of like a third perspective, thinking, this is what I have. I'm this way, and I really want to be this way. So
he couldn't live with it. He didn't want to live like that, though. He was tired of it.
But you shouldn't have to live that way. And
Right.
if we could have recognized those problems, we could have maybe addressed them differently, and maybe people would have expected a little bit less out of him, or if he could have voiced his opinions on how he was feeling, that he might get the recognition he wanted, or he might get the a little bit of slack from being perfect, because we are human beings and not everybody can be perfect, and anyone who expects someone to be perfect, in my opinion, is asking a little bit too much.
Boy, parents put a lot of pressure on kids, to have the best grades, that be the best athlete and whatever. And you need to let kids be themselves. I mean, I never told my kids, like my youngest one, you had to play sports. That was his decision to make. I'm not, you have to go to a certain school. I'm not in your shoes. I don't have to go to school every day. So there is a lot of pressure, and I do hear this from kids. There is a lot of pressure. They had to be a certain way, or a lot of parents try to relive their childhood through their kids. You can't do that. I see that working at the YMCA every weekend. Coaches and parents. You got to let them become themselves. And when I was reading about the youth and the teen suicides, that's a big part of it right there. They can't live up to expectations that people want them to be.
Well, that's the step of a parent. Sometimes you have to do things that you don't like. Sometimes like maybe your kid doesn't want to watch the football game with you, and you don't want to go sit at violin practice or theater practice. Something like that. It's not always sports. You kind of want to, you don't want to give them free rein, but you do want not to force them into doing things that they'll resent you for later and could possibly, feel like they don't have their own life, that their life has been made for them, and then they are depressed because of that. But I think we're about out of time now. About a couple more minutes. Any closing words of wisdom for our audience?
If you know somebody who's dealt with the loss, parent, any kind of family member or friend, ask them how they're doing. People that were my friends, some of them don't talk to me anymore. It does not say in the Bible that, suicide is sin. So as far as religions go, I mean, people think that, but I say, where's it? Because I read the other day in an article, it's not in the Bible. Anything about words that says suicide is a sin. Because they say that people commit suicide do go to heaven. And I never really thought my son was religious until I was going through this book he had, and he accepted God, and I never knew that. So he had his own inner religion, and just because, you don't go to church, but was very happy to know I knew my son was going to heaven. He was a good soul. And just don't be afraid. Somebody wants to talk to you, a child or whatever, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, let them talk. It might make the difference to somebody lives or somebody dies.
All right, guys, this has been Surviving Life's Tribulations. We'll see you next week at 6 o'clock Monday nights, and hope you all have a fantastic week that we just got started off to, and enjoy this nice, cool weather that we have going for a while before that snow catches up with us. This is 1690 AM, The One.
You can plan and it sure ain't flowers. Reese, tell 'em what we doing.
Only blow on that sour, fruity like a sour power, and that clam chowder prowler. Cold white looking like 1,000 grams of powder, smoking 20 grams an hour. Tell your weed man to holler. No backwood, but I fuck with a sweet. I'm a beast, ass grease, I smoke a nigga to sleep. Jeez, I'm in that brain smoking, back to back like a cigarette. Ice on my neck, we call that chain smoking. When I blow trees, it's sour, that OG, that West Coast Kush or that East Coast D's. No Midwest mid-grain or down South Brown. I send a pound down, put that Bobby Brown down. I smell like a pound of D's cologne. It calls the G is on. I'm still smoking like Cheech and Chong. Roll the peach, I don't need no bone. Smoking till the sour D's is gone. My nigga Grease, I'm gone.